Good morning, good afternoon, and a huge welcome to wherever you are around the world. And welcome to today's Postgrad Insight session, part of the wider Festival Week, brought to you today by the University of Cambridge, Imperial College London, UCL, and the University of Warwick. Now, just before I do hand you over to the representatives at the university, a reminder of what today's session will cover, along with a few house rules. So just a reminder, this is a live session. If you have any questions, any concerns, please put it in the chat or the Q&A box at the very top of your screen or bottom of your screen. And also, if you have any concerns for before or after the session, please email myself, Gareth, at postgradsolutions.com. Now, a bit about what today will cover. We'll have a short presentation from today's special guests that we just mentioned, details of what's coming up over the next week, a chance for you to win a bursary for £500, and why you should use postgrad.com to find your perfect postgraduate program. Just a reminder that if you're watching on socials, please put your message in the messenger facility, whether that be on Facebook or in LinkedIn. Please ensure that you put your question in there, make it clear who it's from and where you're from, and we'll put our question in there now. But for now, I'd like to hand you over to the representatives. We've got Fiona from UCL, Amy from Cambridge, Catherine from Imperial, and Rachel from Warwick. I'd like to hand over to you now, guys, and we'll see you for the Q&A at the end.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be really unpicking graduate study options at our 4 UK universities. And so we're going to start just with a kind of overview of the key benefits. Then we'll go through those in a little bit more detail and then, have plenty of questions at the end. So thanks so much for joining us. We hope you find the session useful and we'll jump straight in. So I'm going to cover some of the kind of key benefits of postgraduate study in the UK. And then, as I said, we will go through these in a little bit more detail as we go through the session. So let's talk about academics. Well, the UK is globally recognised for its academic excellence. We're home to the Russell Group, which is a group of 24 research-intensive universities. And so many of our institutions are at the forefront of kind of innovative teaching and global research. Cambridge, UCL and Imperial are all in the top 10 of the QS World Rankings for 2023. And all of our universities feature heavily in kind of global universities most frequently cited. World-class research at all of our universities is supported by world-class facilities at our universities and in the UK more generally. This includes things like libraries and specialist museums. So all of our universities will provide access to books, journals, archives, and even special collections that you can access to support your studies whilst at our universities. For example, Cambridge has over 100 libraries across the collegiate university and 9 specialist museums, and as well as kind of university affiliated libraries and museums in London. London's also the home to the British Museum, which is one of the largest in the world, and is also home to some of the best museums as well. So lots on your doorstep at all our universities. As a graduate student, your course will likely sit in one of the kind of numerous specialist institutes or research centres at Cambridge, Warwick, UCL or Imperial. So we'd really encourage you to do your own research around kind of the relevant institutes at universities you're looking at. But some of our kind of institutes include the Institute for Sustainability Leadership at Cambridge, the Institute for Healthcare Engineering at UCL, the Grantham Institute for Climate Change and the Environment at Imperial, and also Warwick Mathematics Institute. So really what we're trying to convey is that graduate study really presents the opportunity to get involved with our globally influential institutes, departments and faculties, and essentially masters and PhD studies in the UK really allow you to experience new viewpoints and perspectives within those high academic standards that we're maintaining. We'll talk more about admissions requirements as we go through, but they will vary by institution, so do just check individual websites. But generally, the GRE and the GMAT are much less common than in the US graduate admissions process, and there might be only certain courses that ask for them in our institutions. Let's talk about finances then. The UK often makes kind of financial sense. Graduate study in the UK is often shorter. This doesn't mean less quality, it often just means more focus. So typically there are less continuous assessment or teaching elements to programs, and quality is instead packed into kind of smaller seminars or practicals with a focus on your own research with, of course, guidance from a supervisor. The benefit of these kind of typically shorter lengths does usually mean lower costs. So UK universities are very transparent about entry requirements and costs. There's also typically opportunities for working during your studies. This will be institution dependent, but most universities will allow an element of part-time work alongside your course. There's no need for private health insurance in the UK, so access to the National Health Service in the UK for international students is free with a small yearly surcharge to get access to that. And we will talk all things kind of fees, finance and funding a little bit more detail in just a moment. Finally, thinking about how your careers can be impacted by your experience in the UK, well, the UK can really help develop your resume. It's important to remember that employers really value UK degrees and international experience, and so graduates from our universities in particular are highly employable. The UK's graduate worker route means that there's an opportunity to make the most of any kind of connections or routes that you make while studying. And we'll explore a little bit more about that as we go through as well. So hopefully this provides kind of a useful overview of some of the key benefits of studying at our 4 institutions and the UK more generally at a graduate level. So I think I'll now pass over to Fiona to take you through some of these parts in a little bit more detail.
So we just now want to talk a little bit about why we think, in terms of sort of your future career, the UK is a great place to consider. So as Amy has sort of mentioned, we have things like the graduate worker route, which if you do decide that, you know, the UK is somewhere that you love, you really enjoy being here, you have that extra 2 years at the end of your studies to stay, to really find the perfect career for you, and not need to jump into a job that will maybe sponsor you but isn't quite right for you. It gives you the time, the space to really think and to decide what you want to do next, and hopefully help you find the perfect career. Now, all of the 4 universities here today, we're all incredibly close to major cities. So whether it be sort of UCL and Imperial based in London itself, Cambridge, which is a hub of sort of science and different sort of institutions, or Warwick, which has sort of which has Coventry, Birmingham and London all within sort of an hour and a half of their doorstep, means you're so close to some major employers and to things such as like the House of Parliament, to things if you're looking into law, there being the courts, you really do get the opportunity to go and experience these major institutions, to maybe try and get some work experience if you can. This really does add value to your time in the UK, because not only are you accessing excellent academic study, but you're also able to really expand your knowledge by making the most of work experience and connections. And all 4 of our universities have excellent career services who can help you find the perfect career for you. We then wanted to talk a little bit about the networking opportunities that you'll get. So if you are a graduate student in the UK, many of our universities will have graduate schools, which will allow you to meet other students doing maybe a PhD, doing other master's students. So you will really get the opportunity not just to sort of think about the graduate study maybe within your own small department, but really look at it at a wider scale and really get the experience to meet other people and maybe try a new career that you'd never even considered before. Next slide, please. So you think the UK is a really good place to study, but you're not quite sure which university is right for you. We just wanted to give you some information about how to select an institution to make sure that this is the perfect place and it's going to be a course that you genuinely really love. So the 4 universities here today, we are all research led. And we would really, really recommend that if you are looking at a master's degree, or especially a PhD, that you really are looking at the research undertaken by the universities. This can be done by the REF, which is the Research Excellence Framework, which has been published in the last sort of 6 months or so. And it will give you a breakdown of all the research that universities are doing. You'll be able to see how the research is ranked, whether it be sort of world-class quality, whether it be internationally recognised. So you'll really get a sense of where the universities in the UK are specialists. And if you're thinking about sort of a specialist study, you should also make sure that the staff are teaching classes that you're interested in. So have a look at the special subjects that the institutions are looking at. Do look at the rankings as well. In the UK, we do take rankings incredibly seriously. So what universities work really hard to ensure we are at the top. As Amy mentioned at the start, our universities are all of world-class quality. So, it might be that, that there's sort of only a few maybe places different, but also then do look at the subject rankings, as some universities will have stronger subjects than others. And with that, I'm going to pass over to Catherine to talk about fees and funding.
So yes, thinking about the scary bit, potentially the fees and funding, our bottom line is that it doesn't have to be so intimidating when you are considering comparing the UK as a study destination potentially to somewhere like the USA. So when you are looking at tuition fees, you will find these will vary between degree programme and between universities as well. Unsurprisingly, the higher ranked universities are likely to be charging more than the lower ranked universities, but then you'll see there will be a difference between the types of subjects that you may be studying. So classroom-based subjects, humanities, social sciences are going to be cheaper than more of the lab-based sciences, engineering, and then kind of medical-based programs. You will find that some of the business programs tend to be on the more expensive end of things. Things like MBAs will generally always be the most expensive option. In terms of living costs, we do, there is guidance around kind of providing information for visas, depending on where you're coming from. But generally speaking, we recommend around £1,300 per month should be available to you to live in London, and just over £1,000 for the rest of the UK. This would be planning ahead to cover your accommodation, your sort of food, transport, books, general living expenses. Of course, some people will spend more, and of course, some people do manage to spend less as well. So, do think about kind of planning and budgeting. What we wanted to do is highlight really how the UK can be of good value when you are comparing it to options in the USA. So we did a little bit of research and kind of looked at what a 2-year master's programme, as it would normally be in the US, compared to that 1 year to study a master's programme in the UK. When you add up the tuition fees and then the living costs and accommodation costs around that 2 years, you can see it is much more economical to consider the UK. Obviously, though, you will be wanting to think how you're going to cover those costs. If you are coming from the USA, then absolutely FAFSA is accepted. Loans is really the kind of common way that students coming from the US will cover their studies, but also do your research in terms of what other funding may be available to you. So, do kind of think about what the universities can offer. So we have our links here in terms of our own individual scholarship pages, but then also think externally, what might be available, say through UK government schemes, things like the Chevening Scholarship Scheme. Then there are kind of reciprocal scholarships, so large ones for students coming from the US include things like the Fulbright, the Marshall scholarships. There may then well be kind of sort of niche industry scholarships available, so perhaps related to the field that you're particularly looking to study with. In the same respect, charitable foundations as well may be kind of either broadly speaking sponsoring students, or maybe kind of looking at more of those specific areas. Really, the message is to kind of leave no stone unturned, really sort of think about what options would be there to you as an individual. A great way to do this is a resource called the Alternative Guide to Postgraduate Funding. It's an external database that you can access today for a small fee. It's around sort of £25–30 to access this, or if you apply to a university that has a relationship with the funding guide, you'll get free access to it once you have an application number. This is an external database of all sorts of wonderful scholarships that may be applicable to you. They do tend to be on the smaller end of things. There aren't many of those kind of golden tickets that will cover everything, but we find that many students coming to study masters and PhDs do come with what we kind of term portfolio funding. So it may be that kind of smaller scholarship from one area added with another scholarship from somewhere else, and that may reduce, for example, the loan that you need to take out. The database has lots of opportunities for you to explore what may be available to you, but it's also fantastic for you to think about what might actually be available to you as an individual that perhaps isn't even in the database. So they encourage you to kind of think about your own networks, your own personal connections, your own employment experience, for example, and they give a fantastic guidance around how you would actually write an application to a potential funding sponsorship as well. So really highlight that is a fantastic resource. When it comes to funding, please do your research early on. You will find often that funding deadlines may be well in advance of application deadlines, and really, you do want to do as much research into this area as possible before submitting your applications to start that process nice and early. Speaking of applications, I'll now pass over to Rachel to talk through that part.
And so I'm just going to talk you through the kind of details that you need and the documents that you'll need to consider as part of your application preparation to the universities here and more widely to the UK. Now, one of the things that's different at postgraduate level study in the UK is that we don't have one system for all, as it is at undergraduate. For most postgraduate applications, you apply to each university separately. So all of us have our separate application systems and also different processes. So if you are considering making applications to us, we would encourage you to have a look, get in touch with your North America support team, and they'll be able to let you know what those requirements are, and they are listed on lots of the websites anyway. Now, one of the first things is the difference between all of the different qualifications available. There's lots of acronyms available, and it's important that you know which one is which and what the differences are between them. So an MA in the UK is traditionally a Master of Arts. That typically covers courses that are in the arts sector, so subjects such as history, humanities, those general areas, that would be a Master of Arts. We have Master of Science, which is the MSc, and they cover a range of subjects. So it is the science-based, but also some of the social sciences. Could be an MA, it could be an MSc, depending on the university that you go to. There is no right answer. It just depends which faculty that course sits in as to whether a university calls it an MA or an MSc. There's an MRes, which is a Master of Research, and that traditionally is 1 year of research. So there's not as many talk components as part of your programme, and you do a research project and have that for the 12 months at the end. There's also an MPhil, and that's quite often a 1 or a 2 year programme that's a Master of Philosophy. That can sometimes lead on to a PhD, but is also a standalone qualification in itself. So the main things for you to consider and look at when you are considering applying to the UK are the entry requirements. Now, for each of the universities present today, we are very, as Amy mentioned earlier, very explicit about what our entry requirements are. They are not kind of numbers that are around about. It's usually a minimum. So if we ask for a 3.3, then that's a minimum requirement, and we would look for that or above for some of those courses. So check the websites first, that make sure that you check the entry requirements. We are very open about what we look for. That's also to include anything about a GMAT or a GRE around any economics subjects. So it isn't required for the vast majority, an LNAT or anything like that, but just double check those requirements before you submit your application to make sure that you are as prepared as you can be to make sure you hit any additional kind of things that you may need to provide for that course. Early applications are always encouraged. As Catherine has just said, lots of funding bodies have their application deadlines very early. Traditionally in the UK, we start our application processes a little bit later than that. So I know certainly at Warwick, we open middle of October for the following year's entry. So that's 11 months in advance that we open, but that can be quite close to the funding body deadlines. Lots of students apply for funding. So if you'd like to be considered for particularly for some of those competitive courses and programs, then we do encourage you to apply early. That you will then have an advantage. And if you are accepted and you do receive an offer, then you have that added bonus of having your offer in hand, ready for when you go to your funding interview, if you are selected, to say, you've already been successful and you have been made an offer from this university. So we would always encourage an early application. The documents that you would need to provide. So we always ask for a statement of purpose. That is why you want to study the course. Why do you have an interest in this subject? What is it about that course at that particular university that interests you? Is it that it aligns with what you'd like to do in the long term in your career? Is there a particular lecturer or researcher that you have an area of interest in that you'd like to be taught by? Anything like that you have, we want to know why you've picked us for your application. We also need to see your degree transcript. If you have not yet graduated, that can be your most recent transcript, and we need to see that in its entirety. So we need to see all the grades that you've had and achieved to date, so that we can check all 3 years of your study. If you've already graduated, we would need to see both your degree transcript and also your certificate. For anybody who's joining the call that is not based in the US and English is not the first language, then we would need to see a copy quite often in both the original language and an official attested translation. Certainly that's the case at Warwick. So we need to see both copies of the degree transcript and the certificate in English and the original language. We also would need to then see a copy of an academic reference. So most courses we ask for traditionally 1 reference. There are some programs at Warwick that may ask for 2. Do check for different universities whether that is the case and whether that's 1 reference or 2 that they require. Some may also accept a work reference if you've been out of academia for a number of years. So check that, but just before you make your application, so you don't get that wrong before you apply. Next slide, please. So that was the taught applications. This is now the research application process. And again, you need to apply directly to your potential university that you're interested in, so that you need to get that ready as much as you can ahead of submitting that application, because we accept all of our applications directly. The first thing that we all recommend and that we always say is do your research. Research study and PhD level study is a long period of time to dedicate to your topic of interest. So it's really important that you get that right and you make sure that you align your interests with somebody that really can help you achieve the best potential in your area of research subject. So do your homework is the first one. For lots of universities, they have the supervisors that they have as specialists in their particular fields available on their website publicly. So certainly at Warwick, we have a section that's find a supervisor. Similarly at my colleagues' universities, they have that information on their website. So do go to the academic department's web pages, check the profiles, contact the supervisors prior to the application if that's what is encouraged. Do note that some universities will assign you a supervisor instead. So that's the other bit around doing homework. Check whether you need to contact them first or if that department will assign you one. Because there's 2 different options, the universities, particularly we will tell you which way round it is for which department. So make sure you have a look and see which area of subject it is that you'd like to cover prior to your application. Then you need to get ready for your research proposal. So make sure you have that prepped in advance as much as possible ahead of submitting any application. check for any funding routes that are available. There are lots of studentships available at UK universities, particularly at PhD level. There are a number that can provide full funding at departmental level for different universities. So check those out before you apply, and that may be that you could apply for those at your particularly interested institution, and then fill in your online postgraduate application form. So obviously you submit that research proposal, you tell us what it is that you're interested in, check when you'd like to start that, and yeah, we will then get in touch with you with the next steps there. There are, of course, some differences between science PhDs and humanities PhDs. So, of course, do make sure that you kind of have an idea of that area of interest and what the differences between those are ahead of submitting any application. Just a final one from me before we give you a little bit more insight into individual universities. Fiona mentioned location in the UK. One of the big things I think that everybody knows about the UK is that actually, in the grand scheme of things, we're not that big a country. So one of the best things about being in the UK is that everything is really well connected, and it doesn't take very long to get round the UK at all. So the 4 universities that we've got here today, 2 are based in London, which are UCL and Imperial College. They are right in the heart of London. So if kind of a city-based university experience is what you're looking for, kind of you will get that obviously in the heart of the UK's capital, and they are very close to each other as well, so you will get that kind of city living. University of Cambridge is not too far away, and that is also in the south of the UK. That is a really easy train ride into London. It's also connected to Birmingham and kind of the local area. Beautiful part of the country, and yeah, really well kind of within reach for those who wish to kind of experience the rest of the UK. And then University of Warwick, we are a campus-based university in the city of Coventry. We have best of both worlds for both campus experience, but also really well connected to local transportation. So no more than 3 hours to most places in the UK, apart from Edinburgh and Glasgow, which are a little bit further, but really well connected universities, all 4 of us. So for anybody who's looking for an experience outside of their home base, then we're really well connected for you to enjoy that and get a greater experience of your time in the UK.
So yes, as kind of Rachel's given an overview of where we're all situated, and we're now just going to take you through a little bit more detail around kind of some USPs of our institutions and just a little bit more about them. So starting with the University of Cambridge, we were founded in 1209, so we're one of the oldest universities in the world, and we, as we kind of established already, do offer a kind of world-leading postgraduate education. The city of Cambridge itself is kind of a medium-sized city. As Rachel said, we're located in the east of England, so about an hour on from London. We have a very historic city in terms of our architecture. We are a city-based campus university, so that's kind of the style of university that we are. But within the kind of the university buildings, there are also many shops and restaurants. We have the River Cam flowing through the city, and then we also have kind of plenty of parks and green spaces. Cambridge is also now known as Silicon Fen, so kind of Silicon Valley's twin, I guess. This is really just due to the high number of tech companies that do base themselves kind of within the city and surrounding areas. So that's kind of a cool development over the last kind of decade or so. Just jumping to the next slide then. The University of Cambridge's reputation for kind of outstanding academic achievement is known worldwide and really does reflect kind of the intellectual achievement of both its students and the kind of world-class original research that is being kind of carried out by staff across the collegiate university. Even today. So we're now kind of a rich blend of this history, but also modern innovation. And as we kind of touched on already, Cambridge is currently second in the QS World Rankings, just after MIT. So at the centre of our kind of academic excellence is the high quality teaching we're able to offer. Most of our professors are national or even international experts in their field. And at Cambridge, we have a really unique supervision system of teaching, even at a graduate level. So this means that students will meet one-on-one or have kind of one professor to small group teaching. And this really means that you have very close access to these experts, are kind of leading academics and professors. As I've already mentioned, Cambridge has many state-of-the-art facilities to support your kind of teaching and learning. But we also have many extensive welfare services for students. So we have a fantastic careers service that advertise hundreds of internship and work experience opportunities, and also allow you to connect with our kind of global alumni network. We have the Accessibility and Disability Resource Centre for any student who might need it during their time at Cambridge. We also have a fantastic students' union as well that's there to kind of represent and lobby for kind of priorities of students. This really kind of, these facilities kind of really will help you make the most of your time at Cambridge. In terms of our kind of mission at the university, we have this really global outlook and reach, and essentially our aim is to contribute to society through the pursuit of education, learning and research. And so as a graduate student, you're really going to be at the centre of that, probably undertaking your own research and contributing to the kind of narrative that's coming out of the university. Some of the current research includes things like the SwiftKey and predictive text app, also kind of iris recognition technology by John Daugman, and also developments in things like EU antibiotic legislation. And so this is just a few examples, but you can see kind of and engage with the types of research that's happening at the university on our website. And yeah, that's widely publicised. In terms of our cohorts, well, we are a very international community at Cambridge, with 50% of our postgraduate students being international. So we really are bringing together the kind of brightest minds from all over the world to make this really academic, but truly global community. And our students are studying all manner of kind of subject areas. We have over 300 postgraduate courses on offer at the university, and these span about 21 different qualification types, including both the taught and research opportunities across really an incredibly broad range of academic disciplines. So really there should be a combination where you can kind of combine your subject interest and research interest to a course that is very tailored to you. And you can search and filter using our course directory to kind of see what courses are available. Final few things. Well, Cambridge is a collegiate university, and this is really kind of central to our identity as a university. College is essentially a mini campus that becomes your home away from home in many ways whilst you're at the university. College is where you will eat and can socialise. You also receive kind of ongoing academic and pastoral support from your tutor and college's postgraduate offices. Graduate students might have the opportunity to live in college accommodation if that's of interest. And ultimately, colleges really create this environment for engaging across the academic disciplines with people that you might not meet within your department. So obviously at a postgraduate level, you are largely kind of, your day-to-day is largely based in your department traditionally, but this college setup also allows and encourages you to engage with all types of academics from across the university, and really is part of the kind of rich academic experience that Cambridge is able to offer. Through your college, there's also opportunities for research, kind of teaching and professional development as well. And finally, just a note on funding opportunities. Well, kind of Catherine outlined really nicely some of the opportunities available kind of more generally, and Cambridge is no exception. Every year, the University of Cambridge awards over £100 million worth of scholarships to new postgraduate students. So there are many generous kind of university and college endowments, such as Gates Cambridge and other kind of prestigious scholarships. Many of our students are also able to fund their studies through external sources, so loans, charities, government schemes, those types of things as well. So yeah, I guess that's a whistle-stop tour of the University of Cambridge, and I'll pass over now for us to hear about the next uni.
To talk about Imperial. So kicking off, this is a picture of the South Kensington area of London. That's where our largest campus is based. We do also now have a brand new research campus at White City that has fantastic new research labs, as well as our more sort of specialised campuses at the hospitals, such as Hammersmith Hospital and our Silwood Park campus in the life sciences. But a lot of the activity we have goes on in South Kensington. So potentially, if you have visited London as a tourist, you may well have walked past our doors without even realising it. If you visited some of the kind of key cultural area of the city in South Kensington, we are located next to the Natural History Museum, the Science Museum, the Victoria and Albert Museum, and the green space you see at the top of the picture, that is the world famous Hyde Park. So really lovely place to be based as a student. And this whole area was actually founded in the mid-19th century for the Great Exhibition of 1851, which was the brainchild of Prince Albert, Queen Victoria's husband, who really wanted to celebrate how modern industrial technology and science would be key to building a better future. That's very much part of Imperial's heritage. That's when the Imperial Institute was founded, but it's also who we are today, as we're quite a unique university in the UK, being solely focused on science, engineering, medicine and business. However, within those areas, we have a very wide range of programs. So we have 10 different engineering departments, ranging from civil to bioengineering, material science, a whole range of natural sciences programs, physical sciences, life sciences, areas such as our Centre for Environmental Policy, Science Communication, and then one of the largest cohorts of graduate students studying medical related programs, from the kind of clinical areas to more areas like public health. And then finally, our business school, which has a whole range of programs in areas such as finance and management. Imperial research really is expanding the frontiers of knowledge within these areas, and really for the benefit of society as well, as we seek to kind of find solutions to some of the world's largest challenges. Whether that's the work our researchers are doing with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to eradicate malaria, or our work in low carbon technologies. Our research really is making a difference. And actually, in the Research Excellence Framework we mentioned earlier, in the latest version of that, Imperial was deemed to have the greatest proportion of world-leading research of any UK university. So we really are kind of pushing boundaries, and innovation is one of the core kind of values that runs throughout campus. We know that our students are incredibly bright and have fantastic ideas, so we want to make sure every one of them has the opportunity to make those ideas into a reality. So we've introduced areas such as our Advanced Hackspace network, whereby every single student, no matter which program you're studying, whether that's kind of a practical program or a theoretical program, you can have hands-on experience of things like 3D printers, laser cutters, woodwork, metalwork machines. The idea is, if you have that kind of brilliant idea, you can prototype it, you can make it into a physical reality. Again, you know, you have potentially this product you've developed. What do you do with it? How do you get it out there to the wider world? Well, now all of our students, again, have free access, no matter which department they are in, to what's called our Enterprise Lab. There you can take part in things like mentorship schemes, pitching competitions, and really kind of make your idea into a viable business. Or potentially just go along and meet other students who have ideas that you can join in with as well. As I said, these are completely free to all our students. And actually, since it was founded, the Enterprise Lab has raised over £200 million of investment in student startup companies, and supported over 230 different companies. companies. This includes one that I'd like to highlight called Notpla, which have developed a seaweed-based replacement for plastic packaging. This packaging has actually been used on events such as the London Marathon, and they also have a deal with the delivery takeaway company Just Eat, the UK equivalent of the of Grubhub for anyone who uses Grubhub. So they, as I said, have kind of found a replacement for plastic, and actually just before Christmas, they won the Prince of Wales Earthshot Prize of £1 million of investment as well. So that's kind of one example of our students kind of carving out their own path, and that kind of feeds into this idea that actually we are also deemed as the first in the UK for graduate prospects, as we really kind of support students in looking ahead to kind of what they do after university as well. So if you are interested in being part of an institution that is really kind of pushing the boundaries in science, engineering, medicine, with a real kind of entrepreneurial spirit throughout, I would really encourage you to consider Imperial. With that, I'll pass over to Fiona to talk about UCL.
So UCL, for those of you who don't know, is we are University College London. Now we are quite a historic university. We are just approaching our 200th birthday, as we were formed in 1826. We were founded using the principle at the time that education should be open and available to all those who would benefit from it, which at the time was completely groundbreaking and had never been done before. It was on this ethos that UCL was founded, and we were then the first university in England to admit women and the first university in England to admit people of any religion or any social background. And this was the start of a very exciting journey for UCL and is part of who we are today. We are now the UK's largest university in terms of student numbers. We have approximately 47,000 students currently studying with us, and these students come from a huge range of backgrounds with over 150 different countries represented. Now, these students, about 50% of them are studying graduate programs, and of these graduate programs, there are 650 different ones to choose from. Next slide, please, Catherine. So all the programs are listed on our website, but these come across 11 different faculties and 72 different departments within these 11 faculties. So we have things such as the law faculty, things like biosciences, things like mathematics and physical sciences, but also arts and humanities and social and historical sciences. So this means that you are going to be mixing with students from a huge range of backgrounds. We really believe that specialist lawyers can benefit from knowing genetic engineering or drone technology. The engineers need to understand human behaviour and design to make the best communities possible. That novelists can be enriched by artificial intelligence, and that if you're a programmer, you really do need to understand linguistic, narrative, or philosophical skills to really make sure your coding is relevant, applicable, and ethical. So if you do decide to come to UCL, you're really going to mix with people that are really making sure that in each of their departments, in all of their programs, they're really pushing the boundaries. All of our programs are designed to really make sure that you have to sort of do some research as part of your program. So if you're doing a sort of a taught masters, you will have the more traditional lecture and seminar based, but you'll also be taking part in your own research and hopefully pushing the boundaries yourself. All of our departments at UCL are incredibly research focused, and you are going to be taught by world-leading experts in each of your individual programs. Just a couple of examples of some research that's currently going on at UCL. In our medical school, we're looking into whether cough medicine can actually help with treating Parkinson's. And people in our anthropology department have been doing some research which has discovered in the last couple of weeks that humans actually sort of were formed from an animal similar to sort of a duck-billed platypus many sort of millennia ago. Now, these are just two examples of what's going on, but if you really want to join a university which really has taken a progressive approach to teaching and research, which has one of the best staff to student ratios in the UK, and which is really investing in our campus, and we recently opened a brand new campus in September of 2022, which is situated on the Olympic Park in the East London, I really recommend that you do consider looking at UCL to really choose a university which is looking to make a real world impact, not just our staff, but we believe that you as bright young people will be able to do that too. And with that, I'll hand over to Warwick.
So as the final of the four, the University of Warwick is by far and away the youngest university of the group. We were founded just over 50 years ago, and as a result, we are quite a young and modern university. Despite that, we are very well ranked and well placed for kind of the research and innovation that goes on in our campus, not just on the campus itself, which as you can see is set in some beautiful countryside in Warwickshire, but also beyond, and some of the leading sectors that we have and that we are at the forefront of on our campus at the moment. Could I just have the next slide, please? So as I said, the University of Warwick is young, but we are ambitious and very forward-thinking. Similar to my colleagues, the University of Warwick is very diverse and inclusive. We have 27,000 students from 145 different nationalities on campus, and that includes a host of students from across the Americas and beyond as well. That campus community does include accommodation available for our postgraduate students. So if you would like to live in that campus community environment, we do have accommodation available for postgraduate students, and also in some cases families, to be able to live and settle in the local area for the duration of your studies with us here at the university. We have 3 faculties of study, but 29 academic departments. And one of the special features at Warwick is the cross-collaborative work that takes place across those academic departments. So although you may be doing a course that's in economics, you may have some modules that are based in our business school. But likewise, if you are interested in liberal arts, you would have access to a wide range of kind of departments and faculties as part of that programme. Our Master of Liberal Arts, we have Global Sustainable Development that are new programmes in the last 3 years, but also have a look at some of those new areas of study and conversation starters of where are we going to be and what is the world going to be in kind of 10, 20, 50 years. And some of the programs that we have starting in our academic departments really do reflect that, and some of the interests that we are seeing that some students do have a growing interest in. In addition to those, we have got lots of research centres, again, cross-collaboratively across lots of interdisciplinary programmes and studies, and that's at both postgraduate taught, so the master's level, but also at research level too. We have disciplinary and interdisciplinary excellence as a result of that. So one of those key features is your access to lots of academic departments at the same time on your programme. And that's one of the key things that we find that students really benefit from as part of their programme here at Warwick, is that they have that opportunity to be exposed to more than just their home faculty and home department. We have lots of potential on campus. We've got lots of developments. We've had our new Faculty of Arts building opened very recently. That is our dedicated hub for students of the arts. We have an arts centre, so we are invested in those study areas too. And we were also the University of the Year for Teaching Quality in 2022. And that's kind of a testament to all of the hard work that goes on in our academic departments, and also the benefit of our students too. They enjoy their time with us here on our campus as well. I am very conscious of time, so I'm going to hand over to Gareth and hopefully go through some questions that we've had. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel, and thanks for your time, and thank you everybody for participating there as well. It was a really insightful session. Always great to hear from any Russell Group unis, never mind for a session itself. So what we're going to do now is we're going to engage in a live Q&A. We've had a few questions come in. So we'll begin with a couple of questions that have come in on the chat, actually. So I want to start with funding. Someone's mentioned a question about Chevening scholarships and Marshall scholarships. It's been asked already, and I think it's been answered in the presentation, I think by Catherine. But Amy, if you want to point us in the right direction, if you guys deal with Chevening scholarships, whether you get them frequently at the different universities and whether or not it's something you're open to.
Yeah, absolutely. So Catherine obviously did mention it in kind of the fees and finance section of the presentation, but yeah, I think most of our universities or all of them will have scholars who are funded by Chevening, by Marshall, Fulbright, those kind of prestigious scholarships. So yeah, absolutely, they will typically obviously require the additional application through that funding body, but yes, we have many students who will be funded by those awards across our universities, definitely.
Okay, and I think that's quite a generic answer across all the 4 unis, so I don't think I need to go to all of you there. A question about how long it takes to apply for a course. How long a student can expect to take to get a decision. You know, it's a very impatient process. I know students want decisions straight away. It doesn't happen straight away. But with the ball being in the students' courts in terms of how much they get over to you guys, and if everything is going swimmingly well, how long does that take?
I was going to say, as Rachel kind of outlined in her section of the presentation, it will really vary by programme and university as to the kind of timelines you're looking at. I know Rachel mentioned about applications opening at Warwick in October. At Cambridge, we're slightly earlier in September, but kind of in that kind of fall period. Offers typically might be made a kind of early spring, so I think we make the majority of our offers by like March time, but it will depend on the course, whether they kind of review applications on a rolling basis or whether they wait and review them as a gathered field. Different courses will have different application deadlines. For most of our universities, as Rachel touched on, the funding deadlines become kind of the most important application deadlines. So even if courses are open into the spring, it may be that if you want funding, you have to apply by that kind of earlier deadline, which is usually kind of over the winter period, so kind of December, January. So yeah, it really does depend. I guess there's not an easy answer, but yeah, I think probably the majority of our offers might come around the spring time. Rachel, I don't know whether you have anything to add to that.
Only just to say that, just on the point that Gareth mentioned, the more information you can provide to the university, the better. What we often find is that applications decisions are delayed because there's documents missing. So if you can, make sure you provide everything as upfront as possible. If you aren't sure, check the process again. Lots of us have kind of different portals and things that you can provide documents to support your application. So yeah, if there's a section that's missing, so a CV, for example, if you're not sure, provide it. If they don't need it, they just won't read it. But if it's there, then at least they know it's there. So yeah, make sure you've got all your documents as early as possible.
Okay, and Rachel, can I just ask you on the Warwick front as well? Just conscious that you didn't get too much time at the end there to emphasise how good it is and whatnot. Now, one of the advantages that Cambridge, Imperial, UCL, and other major institutions will have is the location. People will know immediately where it is. Obviously, if you're watching from the United States, if you're watching from anywhere else around the globe, they might not necessarily know where Warwick even is. Can you tell us a little bit more about the benefits of living in Warwick, about, you know, the infrastructure, the links, getting to and from major cities like London and how easy it is?
Of course. So one of our students' favourite things about Warwick, the word community is very often used to describe their experience. The first thing is that they're very surprised at how green it is and also how open campus is. You can see behind me, this is part of campus, but that's only a small part. So the space that we've got, it's so incredibly vast that it's a great place to be. There's lots of places to walk. We've got lakes available on campus. So there's lots of picnics and all of that sort of thing. So if the kind of campus community away from a large city is something that you're looking for, that's absolutely it. We have that, but we're not secluded in any way, shape or form. Yeah. So we have that campus, but we are also really close by. So we have really good local bus networks. We have a local train, and that runs there's a train every 20 minutes that takes an hour into central London. There's a train that's only 20 minutes into Birmingham, which is the UK's second city. And from there, it connects kind of to the rest of the UK and beyond. I know that in the US and also kind of the wider Americas region, trains aren't as prevalent or as kind of used or well kind of located. Trains are really common in the UK, and there's stations everywhere. So it is really easy to get around without cars and without taxis. You don't need to rely on them. Public transport is really good in the UK. We have all of those connections at Warwick, and that means that, yeah, if you're looking to explore a bit more of the UK, London is doable. Kind of, obviously there's a weekend, you can do a day, you could be there and back, and that's fine. But you can also explore the rest of the UK as well, and we're a great base for that, being in an area called the Midlands. Midlands is the middle of the UK, means that you've got an excellent opportunity to explore the rest of it too.
Excellent. We've got quite a few students asking questions. I know I'll open this up to the whole team here. There's quite a few questions that have come in around their personal statement, what they should be doing. I'd like to say something that, no one else is going to sell yourself better than you. You guys are all, each Russell Group unis, you're inundated with students. You've got some of the best students around the world doing your courses, no matter what course it is. You need to give them a good reason as to why you should be attending that university. Is there any other tips that you would all give? If I start with yourself, Catherine, from an Imperial perspective, that you would look for and say, I give you this piece of advice because we are inundated?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you started a really good point, that it's a personal application from you, and it's actually a kind of personal application to a very specific program as well. So you may apply to multiple universities for kind of, a certain subject area, but when you submit that application to us, it's going to be to that one master's program. So you can really tailor it to why that program is particularly good for you, why you're a particularly good fit for that program. So you can talk about particular kind of classes, modules we call them, that you may be taking, or particular kind of research groups associated with that program. So really kind of tailor it to why that fit is there between you in terms of your background, your experiences. Obviously we will see your transcripts and that kind of black and white academic, but we want some color to it. We want some kind of personality and life. I don't mean personality in terms of make it all quirky, but in terms of really your own experiences, things that maybe we can't get from your transcripts. So work experiences, internships, research experiences, papers you might have contributed to, anything that really kind of makes you stand out from just kind of going along and doing the studies that everyone else in your class is doing. So really kind of boils down to, for me, it's around motivation and fit in terms of kind of why you're the best student for that particular program.
Very similar for UCL as well, obviously being based in London, both of you very competitive in terms of universities, in terms of placements. Would you echo those thoughts from Catherine?
Yeah, absolutely. The only other thing I'd add is, we want to see good quality writing. You're doing a master's level qualification. So, it might seem really obvious, but, firstly check for typos, make sure it's sort of, you're writing well, but also we want to see that you can analyze things. So, talk about, these experiences that Catherine was talking about, analyze how that's led you to, choose the program that you have. You're applying for a very academic focused course, at any of our universities. So we don't just want you to list things, we want you to analyze it and tell us why this experience of this, paper you've written, why has that led you to apply to this program and be where you are today. So yeah, good writing. Excellent. As well as sort of don't just list, basically.
And there's a couple more things. I'm just conscious of time for everybody watching as well. We're just hitting the hour mark, but there's a couple more questions that I feel are imperative. The first one being accommodation. Many international students will worry, it's one of those things that people leave until last minute and go, oh, it's the last thing I can do, but it's quite important. Is there any on-campus opportunities? Do you offer that to graduate students, or is it mostly external? If I open it up to Amy at Cambridge to begin with.
Sure. Yeah, at Cambridge there are a few options really. If a postgraduate student wants to live in college accommodation, which is usually kind of on-site, kind of dorms, those types of things, then certain colleges will have the facility for that. So on our website you can see which colleges have or how much postgraduate accommodation each college has, but we also have an accommodation service that if you're interested more in kind of renting within the city, things like that, then they'll support you in finding appropriate accommodation as well. So yeah, a few different options available at Cambridge.
And Rachel, from a Warwick perspective, I suppose it's not as difficult for you guys being not based in London or in the surrounding areas, but talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, space is not as much of a premium for our campus, but yeah, we have 12 different blocks of accommodation at Warwick, and each of them has a postgraduate option. So what we are seeing actually is an increasing number of postgrad students choosing to live on campus. They have some of those worries taken away from them because they have that room, they have the facilities and the utilities there all sorted for them. They know that in advance, and that's something that is a positive for them. There are kind of, if some students who choose kind of to live in the city centre, that's obviously absolutely fine. We do have partner accommodation options available for that, or in some local towns, but yeah, there is on-campus provision for our students.
Excellent. And Catherine and Fiona, I think it's quite an important point. So I want to open it up to everyone. If we start with yourself, Fiona, from a UCL perspective, property, accommodation, where do you guys sit on it?
Yeah, we will guarantee accommodation to international students who sort of maybe are new to London. So yeah, if you're looking for, accommodation, we can definitely provide that. We find that lots of actual students, by the time they get to sort of graduate level, have actually had enough of living in sort of residences and are actually quite happy to privately rent. In London, that can sometimes be cheaper to do. But if you want UCL accommodation, we can absolutely support students who want that.
And Catherine, from an Imperial perspective, the same, would you say?
Yeah, we wouldn't guarantee it for graduate students. We do find that actually the majority do look kind of at private options, and that's kind of the preference for a lot of graduate students, as Fiona indicated. But we do have partners as an organisation called GradPad, so they have a number of halls of residence as well as some of our own halls. And I'd also say, kind of that is, it's a double-edged sword, I guess, with London in terms of kind of, the variety of options. Obviously, it is a big kind of busy housing market, but there are lots of options, around the city. But also because it is such a big student city, there's actually kind of private providers of kind of more dorm environments as well. So if you don't want your own kind of private house, you might want to be in a halls of resident. There'll be private providers whereby you could be on a dorm kind of floor with students from UCL or other London universities as well. So there's a few different options there.
Okay, and I want to finish off. I was going to talk about IELTS scores and Duolingo and whatnot, but I think a lot of people, especially mature students, their English is pretty good these days. But I do want to finish on what type of courses you all offer, because yes, there's the campus face-to-face, and many of the students come for that experience and that PG life experience. Is there the option to do online courses? Is there an option to do any blended courses or not? If we start with Amy, Cambridge.
Sure, yes. So for our kind of full taught and research-based masters and PhDs, we do have a residency requirement for our students. So students will have to live within kind of a certain distance to the university. So for kind of our full-time kind of main programs, you do have to be present in Cambridge. But we do have our Institute for Continuing Education, who do run some more kind of virtual diplomas and kind of shorter virtual courses. So there are some opportunities for those types of things if you're interested. So yeah, that's the Institute for Continuing Education is the best kind of place to look for those kind of more part-time virtual offerings.
Okay, and Catherine, from an Imperial perspective, again, being this size of the institution that all four of you are, presumably you offer online courses. Does it hinder on the result at all or not?
No, in terms of, kind of if you've undertaken a course that is via that mode, then, that result will stand. Just to say, at Imperial, the vast majority of our programs are in person as well. Yeah. The way, again, maybe some shorter courses and a few niche programs that are online, but the vast majority are in person. Excellent.
Fiona, from a UCL perspective?
Yeah, very much the same as what's already been said. There are the couple. We do have an MBA online option, but in general, same as the others, vast majority are in person.
Okay, and Rachel, from a Warwick perspective, probably echo all those thoughts again. Mainly face-to-face with some online courses, is that right?
Full house. We're mostly face-to-face. We've got our distance learning MBA and some of those programs that are online, but
excellent. Okay, that wraps things up for today. Huge thank you to everybody, all the universities, not just here but behind the scene, for helping make this session happen. It's been really informative, so thank you for your time. And for everybody watching, this is live. It will be on demand as well, so if you've missed any of this, we will reach out to you afterwards. So, but for now, a huge thank you and a huge thank you to everyone for participating. I'll leave you with the rest of the team just to say bye one by one. We'll start with Rachel, work our way down, and we'll go from there.
Thanks everybody for your time today. If you've got any questions, please feel free to get in touch. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, thanks everybody so much for joining. Yeah, you can, for all of our universities, visit our websites for more info, and of course get in touch with kind of the relevant staff member if you're interested in finding out more as well.
Yep, just to echo that, thank you so much for joining us today, but please do reach out via the website or otherwise. Yeah, always happy to help with anything.
Yeah, also, rather repeating everything else, yeah, thanks for coming, and yeah, we hope you found that really useful and informative. So thank you, and yeah, let us know if there's anything we can help with.
Excellent. Thank you, ladies. And anybody that's watching that has missed anything, my email address is gareth@postgradsolutions.com. Contact details will be given to you when we reach out to you separately. If you have any questions, please respond to those emails over the coming days. But for now, a huge thank you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.